more people listened, honestly.
Yeah.
And more people liked the page than I expected would. And random people also. Like, who I'm like, why did you like this?
There's actually the one South African podcast I followed and they followed us back.
Oh, that's nice.
I think it was True Crime South Africa.
Really? Nicole Hilbracht. Oh, I listened to her.
so.
She's in my story now. I got so much of my information from her.
Let me see, what is it?
If it's True Crime South Africa, I'm going to die.
Yeah, True Crime South Africa. Yeah, so... And she liked all of our posts. All 3.
Thank you. I'm having a little bit of a fangirl moment. If she ever listens to us, I would die. I would be deceased.
Well, this can be our test. Hi, Nicole Engelbrecht. Chanelle's a big fan.
I don't know what to say.
I honestly haven't listened yet, and I'm sorry. I will get on that.
Oh, you should. You should. It's really, really good.
Awesome. Well, everyone go listen to her podcast.
I'm doing a massive shout out.
All right.
Literally in the middle of my story because I got most of my information from her because she is my source when I do not have the book. Yes. I think I'm slap happy from being outside all day. I don't know.
Oh my word. I was broken from being out. So I was sitting on the bar stool, basically, and it didn't have a back. So from like 2 o'clock till 8 o'clock.
Your poor back.
So, no, my legs. Because I had flat shoes on and stuff, but I was sitting like this, and I was like working, I was making stuff. But my legs, I can't walk. These muscles are finished. And now I walked on the treadmill.
I was just about to ask.
3 kilometers today. I was like, oh my gosh, my legs, I can't move.
Yeah, they're going to feel better tomorrow, though.
Yeah.
From walking, it's going to
But I didn't think that sitting down all day would hurt my thighs so badly.
You were like flexing the whole time.
To keep myself up, and it was also wobbly, so I was like...
No, I'm surprised your abs aren't sore as well.
Yeah, I found myself slouching a lot, so I was like, oh, the woman who made the skull, she's got a pet crow.
I love that. I hate birds, but I love the idea of having a pet crow because they're so cool.
Yeah, I wouldn't want birds as pets.
No.
You really hate birds?
Yeah, I'm not definitely afraid of birds.
That's weird.
It stems from... Remember Rotanga?
Oh, yeah.
And they had those like wild shows, exhibit, whatever. And they used to have birds and snakes.
Yes.
I almost said reptiles. I couldn't remember the actual word for the one without the legs.
Oh, yeah.
Snakes.
Yeah, didn't they have, like, when you go to the Cobra, on the way there were all the snakes and everything? I've never been on the Cobra, but I remember walking through and then changing my mind.
Don't you like roller coasters?
I would go on, like, Diamond Devil, and that was bad enough for me, and Bushwhacker and stuff. I'm like,
But I love roller coasters.
I've never been on in Brazil, I went on my first loopy-loop one.
But I didn't know you went to Brazil.
Yeah, in 2009.
Oh, that's cool.
Missionary training.
It is very, not what I expected.
I know, me neither.
That is like literally. I thought you were going to tell me you went to go and like, I don't know, research hoodoo or
I wish.
or the witch like craft that is there.
Well, the one day we were walking back to the church where we were based in, and we walked through a park, and there was a ritual by a tree with like a dead bird and blood and a pentagram and stuff. So that was the closest I got to Brazilian witchcraft.
So weird.
Technically, yes. Before we left, we went to this fairground. What do you call it? Theme park.
Mm-hmm.
And the roller coaster goes up, like facing forward in the loop, and then it goes up, and then you go backwards.
Oh yes, I had one of those at Gold City.
It was fun, and I went on it, and then it started raining, and then I was on it, and I'm like, I'm going to die.
I wouldn't. While it's did they not shut it off?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, just...
Maybe Brazil has their own rules.
Well, they do.
South African rules, I guess.
Oh my word. Anyway.
Sorry, yes.
Tangent off the tangent. At Rotanga, they used to have these shows where they would talk about the animals, and then a lot of times they'd have the animals there. And we went to this one show, and the guy asked for a volunteer to come and hold the owl. I shot my hand up. I was like, I want to do this. Harry Potter. Let's go.
I was thinking aliens, but okay.
Aliens?
The fourth kind, the movie, the sign that the abduction's going to happen is that an owl comes to your window.
Oh, okay. I have never seen that movie, but
it's a good movie.
I will watch. And then I held the owl, and everything was fine and whatever. And as the show concluded, the guy said, okay, now we can come up and pet the birds or pet the snake, I don't know. And someone came at me and at the bird too quickly, and the bird fucking freaked out, and it flew straight into my face.
Oh, no.
And then from that day, I was like, no, thank you. I don't want to participate in birds anymore. Birding won't be for me. Thank you. Goodbye.
Yeah, that must have been quite uncomfortable.
I like looking at little birds, like little sacrebackies and stuff like that. They're very cute, and I can admire them from afar. They must just not approach me. Also, a seagull pooped on me once. At school, on a Friday.
Was it Sylvie's Friday too?
Yes.
Ah, of course.
We were having our footlong sale, and we had... Why am I telling this story?
I love it already.
And we had footlongs, and on the footlongs would be like tomato and onion relish.
Called smoor, you know.
Smoor. And I remember we had, was it Vrijdagdrag gehad. So we had school uniform, but it was still, like, it was a golf t-shirt and shorts that we could wear every Friday. With Crocs or with khakis.
So you dressed like frat boys.
You could either wear black Crocs or turquoise Crocs, because our school colours were turquoise. Yeah, those were the only two.
I forget how young you are, because I'm like, Crocs when you're in school? What the hell? And I'm like,
primary school, like grade 6 around.
It's not the 90s we're talking about.
And I remember sitting on the pavilion, and I felt something warm hit my neck, and I'm like, fucking someone threw me with smoor now.
If only.
And I went, and I grabbed it with intent, because I was gonna throw this at someone else. And as I looked, it was not the colour of smoor. It was like a gross colour. I can't remember if it was green or it was like brown or whatever. And I just, I didn't tell my friends anything. I just ran to the bathroom, and I literally had to wash my shoulder off and...
Gross. Yeah. Ugh, no, thank you. I don't think I've ever had that happen to me, and hopefully it never will.
Apparently it's supposed to mean good luck. I don't know when the good luck kicks in, but it hasn't yet, so I'll let you guys know.
I think that's just something they say to make you feel better about it.
Shame you stink. It must be good luck, it's fine.
Yeah. Oh, you got hit by a car, don't worry, it's good luck.
You didn't die.
Oh, that's your good luck, okay.
I'm Chanelle.
I'm Kristin. And this is Law Norman.
Yeah.
Oops, sorry. I went too fast. Okay.
Are you going to do the whole thing over?
Yeah.
I'm Chanelle.
I'm Kristin.
And this is Law Norman.
My brain forgot the name of the podcast. For like
That's why I couldn't say it the first time. Because I'm like, fuck, what is this called? I forget my name.
Performance anxiety.
Just anxiety. This is the case of Sibille Zanner. Disclaimer, this time I actually wrote it down.
Yay.
I mean no harm or ill will towards the people I speak about. This is a report on the information that I could compile about the case, and all my resources will be listed in the show notes. And it's also not my intention to accuse anyone of anything. So this has been described as one of the strangest cases worked on by the SAPS.
Alright.
Before I start, I want to give a massive shout out. This is so weird. It feels like I manifested this. To True Crime South Africa, Nicole
Instagram follower.
Nicole Engelbrecht. She covers so many South African murders that would go unnoticed, and the Sibille Zanner case is definitely one of them. I got a lot of information from a podcast, specifically from episode 36, The Unsolved Murder of Sibille Zanner. I highly recommend listening to this podcast, and as usual, a full list of sources will be available in the show notes. On the 25th of September 2002, a mother and daughter drove past the house of Brigitte Strybel and her husband Harold Strybel in Gruderver. As they drove past, they noticed a woman lying on the driveway / in the street, and the contents of her purse was strewn about. They immediately called for them at the gate to come out, and when they did, they noticed that something was not right. They being the Strybels, were expecting Sibille Zanner that night. Sibille and Brigitte Strybel had been friends, and I also read that Sibille took pottery classes at their family's home. That night she was going there to paint a puzzle for her 2-year-old twin boys, but as she laid on the floor, the puzzle scattered out alongside her. It was noted that a crossbow arrow had been lodged behind her right ear.
What? I did not expect a crossbow.
I know, that's what, like,
wow.
crazy, mad, yeah. Sibille Brigg was born in Germany. I couldn't find much else information about her background, but she had a friend named Frauke, Stribel. Okay. So Frauke is the daughter of Brigitte and Harold Stribel. And Frauke and Sibille were friends since the late 80s, and she described Sibille as someone that everyone loved. She was beautiful, she was kind, that stereotypical woman that would walk into a room and a smile would light up the room. So Frauke and Sibille originally met on a ski trip arranged by people who they both mutually knew, the Zanners. Frauke's family, the Stribels, had been family friends with the Zanners for years, and they were both of German descent. And both families moved to South Africa to start a life here. So Frauke was friends with the Zanners' children, Frank and Karina. They would all travel between South Africa and Europe. Case in point, the ski trip that would change Sibille Brigg's life, basically. Frank Zanner was in his mid-20s at the time, and he had invited Sibille with him on the ski trip. Sibille had been an acquaintance of his ex-girlfriend, whom he had just broken up with, and he apparently already had eyes for her when he and the ex were still together. He and Sibille would start dating while on the ski trip. So he invited her with, I think, pretenses, and it obviously worked. Yeah. There was a mutual feeling there. The Zanners were very well-off people, as described by the Stribels. Frank's father had a business in South Africa called S.A. Linisches, a furniture and carpentry company, which Frank would eventually take over from his father, although apparently it didn't seem like he was really into that idea of, I don't know, working.
Okay. I would not feel like that.
He just wanted to live in the lap of luxury, basically. He just wanted all the benefits without really working for it. I don't know if it's maybe because it's a family business. From what I could gather, it was just he didn't want to work, really. He wanted the benefits, but he didn't want to work for it. After meeting Sibille, Frank saw the opportunity of a stable future. You know, settle down with the right person and all that good stuff. And within a few weeks of dating, Frank would introduce Sibille to his family in South Africa, as well as the Stribels, Brigitte, and obviously Harold. Those are Frauke's folks. This is where the Stribels also grew very close to Sibille. They would see her as a part of their family. Just a reminder that they started off as family friends of the Zanners, but then when they met Sibille on that ski trip, that's when the relationship between that family, the Stribels, also grew with Sibille herself. Okay. Oh, this feels so complicated.
So now everyone is friends.
Yes, everyone is friends. The couple would get engaged not long after that on their way back to Germany, and they had 2 wedding ceremonies, one in Germany and one in South Africa, in Johannesburg to be precise. They decided on settling down in Joburg, living with Frank's parents at first before getting their own place in Waterford Estates. Frank started working for his father and Sibille worked as a secretary. In 1993, Sibille would give birth to their daughter Bianca, but due to complications, Bianca would pass away at only 3 weeks old.
Oh no.
Yeah, she had health problems.
And that's her first child?
First child.
Oh, that must be so traumatic.
Yeah. According to Brigitte, Sibille had made peace with the fact that she will most likely not have children. I can totally understand why she feels that way. She's traumatized most likely, and I'm not sure. I don't know if they were struggling to have kids naturally. But Frank, however, would suggest that they look at adopting a child. Okay. Or as it turns out, twins. He became aware of newborn twin boys and he wanted to adopt them. Sibille was not completely on board at first, but eventually Frank would convince her. But I don't know how this works, because my cousin adopted a child, and there's a whole process that you need to go through before just deciding that you want to adopt a child. I'm pretty sure you need to go do a couple of courses, and there's a whole rigmarole that you have to go through. So I don't know how he kind of just became aware of the kids. In Truth Crime South Africa, she said that she assumed, or maybe it could have been a private adoption or something like that. I don't know how that works. Nonetheless, the boys were adopted in 2000. Okay. The Stribels reported that Sibille was a great mom and took on the new role and routine with glee. They noticed an odd shift in Frank, though. he came across as being distracted. He was tired. He was like falling asleep in their company. And this, you'd think it would be normal because, I mean, twin boys, newborns will probably keep you awake. But that wasn't the case because Sibille was the primary caregiver, which makes me want to roll my eyes because it should be a 50-50 job.
Yeah, especially since it's his idea.
Exactly.
Like, oh, here, let's get these twins. And like, oh, I'm tired. I don't want to do this. Like, I'll punch you in the face.
Oh, you're going to have a time in this story.
Oh, God.
Just remember what you said. It was his idea to get the twins.
No.
Sibille also noticed that there was a change in the man she used to know, but she was an extremely private person and she wouldn't really talk to anyone about her suspicions. And in 2002, the twins were 2 at this point. She would find out what she had been suspecting all along. Frank was a motherfucking cheater.
Of course he was.
He confessed that he had been having an affair for 3 years.
So before, hey, let's get twins.
And he had a child with the woman.
You've got to be kidding me.
Also, he confessed this when he took her out to dinner. Like, so just to add, like, why would you go to a public space? Why take someone to dinner and then tell them there?
So it was like a Legally Blonde thing, and I just realized you didn't watch that.
I haven't seen it yet.
God's sake. I'm so disappointed.
Me too, honestly.
Okay, like Grace and Frankie. Where they take the wives. I thought you watched it. Okay, never mind.
I'm going to watch it.
Yeah, you're going to come here and we're going to do like a marathon.
Yes.
But that's... Okay, so tell me, how close to losing the baby did he start cheating?
Well, she had the baby in 1993. So he started cheating most likely in 1999.
Okay, so it's not like it was to do with the baby and the loss of that. It was like a long time after.
Yeah.
No, especially I just when you said
that makes sense.
Yeah, when he had a child with someone else, I was like, okay, is that connected to loss of their baby?
Okay.
But no, he's just an asshole.
Yeah, he's gonna become more of an asshole in like 2 seconds. Just wait. Yes, so he took her to dinner to tell her this. So this man had been living a double life for 3 years, but don't for a second think that the reason he came clean was because he felt bad betraying his wife and the mother to his sons. No. He was for sure going to live his double life for as long as he could, but the only reason he told her was because someone was going to do it for him if he did. Frank had been having an affair with his colleague Susanna, and in 2000 she became pregnant. What else happened in 2000?
The twins were adopted.
Now, you might be thinking, surely not.
They're not triplets, are they?
No.
Oh.
No.
Okay, I was like, did he she have 3 and then he took 2 to the other girl?
That would have been like... No, that we're not in Days of Our Lives, but...
Weirder things happened.
Yeah, Susanna got pregnant and then Frank started bringing up the idea to adopt with Sibille, and I literally have no words except what the fuck. I can't imagine, first of all, the shock and the anguish that Sibille must have felt in the moments after finding out about the affair, and on top of that there was a child as a result of this. But she was a really remarkable woman, and she didn't have an ounce of ill will towards the child. She actually encouraged Frank to have a relationship with his daughter. And so I mentioned that the only reason Frank came out with the truth was because someone else had threatened to tell Sibille if he didn't. That someone is Susanna's landlord.
Oh, wow, okay.
She lives on a cottage on a property of a couple, and over the 3 years they watched Frank come and visit at odd hours of the night, and they heard them fighting at odd hours of the night. And Susanna grew close to the landlord couple, and over the years she eventually spilled the beans that the boyfriend's married. And the landlord at some point became fed up with hearing how much they fight and all hours of the night, and like I said, that he approached Frank, telling him that he must leave Susanna alone, otherwise he's going to tell Sibille what's been going on here for the past 3 years. So 3 days later, after the dinner, the landlord visited Sibille at work to tell her what's been going on, because Frank was back at Susanna's place. But obviously by then Sibille had known. And I don't know if at this point, like, he was going there to tell Susanna what's happened and call things off, or if he was going there because, now he thinks he has his bread buttered on both sides. I have no idea what he was doing there. Sibille told the Stribles about Frank's affair, even though she told him that he should be the one to tell them what he's been doing. But somehow he avoided even doing that. And they could see how distraught she was, obviously, about it all. And they asked her if she was going to have a divorce, but she didn't want to put her 2-year-old boys through the experience of having to, lose their dad in that way.
I mean, that too.
In my experience, like, my parents got divorced. It's better to grow up in 2 separate households than in one household that's not happy.
Yeah.
Like, and the earlier you recognize that, I think the less trauma you do on your kid than just divorcing. Divorcing's tough, obviously. It's a very big adjustment for people to make. But I think you can at least offer therapy during that time, and you can really talk about it, and you can really, really be open during that time and rather be honest than living in an unhappy household where you almost have to keep it a secret that people are unhappy, but you're more inclined to want to keep it behind closed doors, in my opinion, when the people are still married. And I think that does a lot more damage, or can do a lot more damage to the kids. Yeah. So it's just my opinion, but I understand also from a security sense of view, I 100% understand as well. I can't put myself in that situation because I myself have never been a mom and never been in a situation where I had to make that choice.
That's just so screwed up. I can't believe he did that.
And
to do that to the children as well, like, why
even bring them into that situation?
I mean, how are you supposed to teach your children to have a normal, healthy relationship when you don't have one?
Exactly. So during this time, and probably due to the fact that he was trying to support 2 families, Frank wasn't doing too great financially.
Good.
As you predicted. His father's company had to liquidate a part of their factory due to money troubles, and Frank also took out another loan on his house bond to get access to cash. I don't know if Sibille knew about that. I have no idea. But maybe she did, because also that probably contributed to her not wanting to file for divorce. To reiterate what a beautiful human being she was, Sibille encouraged Frank to let his daughter visit their house on the weekends, and even started setting up a bedroom for her. She was thinking of buying a new car to accommodate everyone. And this, like, I was just thinking while I was researching this case, this stands in such major contrast to the story I told last week. Like, this is the epitome of a mature adult that can see that it's not the fault of the child, and to take out any anger or frustration on her would be absolutely pointless. Like, she recognized that, like her twin boys, this little girl needed her father. And to make it clear, Sibille wanted Frank to end the relationship with Susanna, but she wanted Frank to have a relationship with his daughter still.
And that's huge, to go through all of that and still be like, okay, But that's also, Susanna, like, she sucks because you know that this person's married and you're carrying on a relationship and you're getting pregnant with it. Like, go away.
Don't have a relationship with a married person.
What the hell is wrong with you?
Don't do that. Don't just... be respectful. And as a married person, don't seek opportunities to date other people. If you're unhappy, leave. Like, it's unnecessary to put everyone through that trauma, and especially when there's kids involved. Like, just go away. Like, no one will miss you anyway. Just go away.
You're probably an asshole to begin with.
So it's unclear if he really did terminate his relationship with Susanna. I have no idea. As I mentioned, Sibille was very close with the Stribel family, and they had a recurring arrangement that Sibille would come visit their place once a week to drink some wine and do some crafts. Which sounds best night. I was just thinking, that's like something we would do.
You must still come over and do resin and stuff.
Yes, we were literally just talking about that this weekend at night. I must just get molds. On the 25th of September 2002, Sibille was due to come visit that evening. So Sibille fed her boys, put them to bed, and left them in the care of their live-in domestic worker. She left Frank's dinner in the microwave as any other night. I think this was a normal occurrence. He worked late and she would dish his dinner for him and save it in the microwave for later, which I thought
I would never. I would be like, go to your girlfriend and she can feed you.
Suck a big toe. How about that?
You expect me to feed you while you're sleeping with someone else? How do you, as a man, blatantly cheating on your partner, expect that they're going to feed you and not poison you.
I would put 2 raw frozen chicken breasts in the microwave. If he eats the chicken, I'll die. So, Sibille used her access card to exit Waterford Estate at 11 minutes past 7 that night. The Stribel's driveway leads down to their house, okay? So, in other words, like, you can't really see much when you're at the bottom of the driveway. You can't see onto the street.
I hate drivers like that.
Yeah, I wouldn't. I don't feel safe.
No, because, like, that clutch control, you need to get up there.
Can you imagine reversing back?
No, just driving down. Yeah. No, I don't like it. I like level.
Yeah, but also I would want to be able to see what's going on in the road and stuff like that.
Someone could ambush you.
Yeah. They couldn't see that. Like, Nicole Engelbrecht explained that she went on Google Maps and looked at it, and you can't see, or you look at the roof when you stand at the at the
scary
road.
Yeah.
I was waving my hand parallel the whole time. Like, what is this called? A road. So they were expecting Sibille around 7:30. They heard some dogs barking and they thought, okay, this must be Sibille. But there was no doorbell. And then towards 8 o'clock, that's when they started hearing the neighbors calling, and that's when Sibille was discovered. She was lying in the street. I think it was at the top of their driveway, and her car was only a few meters away. As I mentioned, she was found with a crossbow protruding from her head, entering on the right-hand side, just below her ear. It severed her first and second vertebrae, and it would leave her paralyzed. Like, if she survived, she would have been paralyzed.
That's terrible.
The paramedics managed to restore her heartbeat, and Sibille was rushed to the hospital. Frank met the Stribels at the hospital after they called him to let him know what happened. While at the hospital, Frank went outside to have a cigarette and was joined by a man who was also smoking and waiting to hear about his own wife's condition. The doctors informed Frank and the Stribels that there wasn't much that they could do to help Sibille, and that they would most likely have to switch off the life support machines the next morning. This news made Frank super emotional, and he turned away from the people and he cried, and he threw his car keys into the corner of the room out of frustration. The Stribels accompanied him back to his house to help him, to lend a hand in taking care of the boys, and I guess just to be with each other. I don't think anyone wants to be alone in that circumstance. When they arrived home, Brigitte offered Frank some sugar water to calm his nerves, and he told her that he was hungry because he hadn't eaten yet. This was weird to her because she knew his food was always in the microwave and that he always ate as soon as he got home.
And also, how do you have an appetite when your wife is basically
That's
dead?
what I thought as well. Before I even thought about the microwave story, I was like, I love food. Don't get me wrong. I will eat anytime, anywhere. It doesn't matter if I'm hungry or not. But in a situation like that, I cannot imagine myself saying, "Oh, I'm hungry."
Yeah.
Or telling someone else that Also, now that I'm just thinking about it, did he tell Brigitte that he's hungry because he expected her to make him food?
Most likely. Sounds like it.
That literally just came to me.
And also, if I was just told that my spouse, yes, I'm cheating and having a double life, but my spouse by the morning is going to be dead, I would not leave their bedside if I truly loved them. I wouldn't even go home to begin with. I'm going to be...
But he had kids.
Yeah, but you can send the neighbor. Yeah. Those people, they know the kids already. Yeah. Just send them and say, please take care of the kids. I need to be here. Or bring the kids to come and spend the last little bit with their mom. I wouldn't leave. I would be like, I'm not leaving my partner. They're dying. Okay,
unless the hospital tells you cannot stay here. Which I don't think...
They won't do that if it's your spouse.
No, not if you have to switch off the life support the next morning. I cannot imagine that they tell you to go away. But
so clearly he didn't love her that much, in my opinion. But everyone loves differently, I suppose.
Sips wine. The next morning, Frank was getting ready to go to work.
Okay.
Thinking this was odd, Brigitte reminded Frank that they were going to say goodbye to Sibille this morning because they would be switching off the life support machines later. He said that they would meet them there, and I assumed that he did. I don't know. I think he did. I think he went. 14 hours after Sibille was found, her life support would be switched off, and she passed on the 26th of September 2002 at 10:33. The crossbow arrow had not been retrieved from her skull.
So was it lodged in there the whole time.
Mm-hmm. But I mean, you can't take things out like that, which we'll get back to now, because it has...
Alright.
You'll see. This case is just all over. So there was very little initial investigation done at the scene.
Yeah, but what do you... Like, how do you investigate a freaking crossbow shooting? That's so...
Yeah, what do you investigate? There was no photographer available on the evening of the shooting, leaving the scene unphotographed.
How is that even possible?
Sibille's handbag and the contents thereof were not handled with gloves and put into evidence bags. Everything was just like moved into the car with bare hands.
No wonder this was the craziest case the SFBS has ever had, because they don't know how to freaking handle cases.
At least they spotted tire tracks just behind Sibille's car, and they took a casting or print or whatever for further examination, and it seemed to belong to some kind of 4x4, but that's all that came from.
Wow, in South Africa.
This
Shocking.
piece of evidence. Yeah. From the position Sibille was found in, the investigators could tell that she had gotten out of the car. She started making her way towards the house, but something caught her attention. Something caught her attention, and she walked back towards where the possible perpetrator was, meaning that she might have known or trusted this person. A bruise was found on Sibille's arm during the autopsy, lending to the fact that the perpetrator might have grabbed her when she got close enough. And there was also evidence that pointed that the crossbow was held like right against her head when it was used. Like, I don't know, no, that's not execution style. I don't know.
Well,
like right against her head, basically, like how you would hold a hostage.
Yes.
Or not you know what I mean?
Yes. Also, I was going to say, when you said that they were expecting her to come to the house and they thought they heard her, but then they didn't hear her like a doorbell. Like, I understand your house is not in the view. I would walk up the driveway. I'd be like, I'm expecting you. I think you're here. Let me go check if you've arrived. Like, that's my instinct.
Yeah.
I know other people aren't like that, but I'm like, if I know that you're coming, I'm checking to make sure that...
Yeah.
So, because I don't want to, like, have you wait outside and stuff. I'm like...
But I mean, I
suppose
think we're also hyper-vigilant, I think, and we're both anxious, so...
Okay, that's true.
I think that lends to why we're always like, someone's coming to my house, I need to be ready for them.
That's true.
Because that's how I am as well.
Like, when I was cooking earlier, and every time I heard a call, I was like, is that Chanelle? No. Is that Chanelle? No. Okay.
Luckily, I also have anxiety, so I have to text you, like, okay, I'm 5 minutes away. Okay, I'm leaving now. I would never just show up at your house. So there was evidence that pointed to the fact that the crossbow had been held against her head. Due to the force at which the crossbow arrow had been shot, literal pieces, like hair strands, were found in her skull.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, so
that's
it's
really
definite, like, it was held like right up against her.
Could that be one person? I mean, if someone's holding her or pulling her, and I mean, a crossbow is not small, right?
I think you can get those smaller ones, those almost like handheld type of ones. I think you get those.
Because my mind always sees like the big hunting.
Yes, I also thought that, but I think you do get the smaller versions.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure.
Kill someone with a crossbow.
Who has a crossbow?
What are you doing? I don't understand.
Reevaluate your life decisions. Yeah. So this case baffled police, according to a spokesperson. They also went on to say that a robbery couldn't have been the motive because everything was left at the scene of the crime. And if this was an assassination, they had no idea who wanted Sibille dead. Frank also told the media that he had no idea who would do such a thing because she didn't have any enemies.
I thought you were going to say because she doesn't have any life insurance.
No, she has life insurance. We'll get to that.
No, I thought like, that's why he doesn't want to kill her, because she doesn't have life insurance.
We'll get there. Police superiors decided to move the case to another investigating officer because they were not making progress. So earlier I mentioned that there was a man who joined Frank outside the hospital. Yes. Both of them were having a smoke, and this man's wife was actually in the same ICU as Sibille. Esme Bielefeld, who was in the hospital at the same time as Sibille, was the wife of top cop Piet Bielefeld.
Oh my.
He was involved in cases like the Lee Matthews case and the Shaldine Himan case, both of which I'll cover. So this is the very man who would be taking over the investigation of the death of Sibille Zanner.
How? The universe is insane, man.
I know. So Bielefeld's first point was to get to know Sibille. This is called victimology, and I have a little definition of what victimology is. Victimology is a term first coined for speciality within the field of criminology. In recent times, victimology has come to embrace a wide array of professional disciplines working with victims. In its original form, victimology examined characteristics of victims and how they, quote-unquote, contributed to their victimization. The emergence of crime victims' rights movement has influenced the field of victimology and the nature of the research. Current research has been helpful in identifying risk factors related to victimization without blaming victims.
Okay, good. Because,
it's less about, like, it's your fault. It's more just, like, what made you a bigger victim, a bigger target.
I imagine previous traumas and things like that might lead you to certain situations you wouldn't normally have gone to.
Exactly that.
So I can see where that will differentiate from, like, victim blaming.
Yes.
So it's kind of like the FBI's criminal profiling, but just focused on the victims.
Yes.
That's
we do
really
this
cool.
in, like, what I study.
That's
in
awesome.
criminology. There's the victimology is one of the subjects.
That must be really handy at, like, a skill to be able to do on yourself, to, like, sort of see where you could get yourself into trouble.
Yes, or stay out of trouble. Okay, so he went to the Stribels first, and they could paint a really good picture about who Sibille was as a person and what she had been dealing with leading up to her murder.
Too much.
Yeah. Sibille had been unusually quiet in the week leading up to her murder, according to Brigitte. Her colleague mentioned that Sibille had received a phone call on the day of her murder that made her upset. He explained that she was usually very composed and private, like we've mentioned, never bringing any personal issues to work, but on this day, she had an argument with a person on the other end that was uncharacteristic. He couldn't hear what she was saying, but he was pretty sure he'd heard the name Frank. But also, you can't really 100% rely on what people say.
Because isn't that a theory as well? Witnesses, they also hear things wrong, or they easily, like,
or they forget, or they
false
fill in
memories.
the blanks.
Yeah.
Exactly. When he started coming closer to find out if she's okay, she switched from speaking English to speaking German. Which, to play devil's advocate, which I don't like, don't approach people while they're on the phone. Like, I understand, like, she might have seemed, like, upset and whatever, but I don't think her switching over languages, I wouldn't want anyone to hear what I'm talking about.
Yeah, for sure.
You know what I mean?
Like, if I was in another country where they're English speakers and I was on the phone speaking English and someone was approaching me, I'd switch to Afrikaans.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, like,
exactly.
hierdie mens is te naby. En hy luister vir my en ek hou nie van dit.
That's the first time I've heard you ever speak.
And you know how I struggled to put that sentence together.
That was really good. It sounded good. Oh. It didn't sound bad at all.
Oh, I think you might be drunk from that beer.
No. It's not even finished. Oh, okay. So she switched from English to German. After putting the phone down, she apparently said, "Oh, men," in like a exacerbated but humorous way, but he said that it seemed like she was trying to make light of it, but that it hurt her. You could see that it hurt her. Once again, how much stock are you going to put into what one person says?
Yes.
You know, is it stock?
Stock.
Stock.
I thought stalker, because he's so close in listening to our conversation.
How much stock are you going to put into, like,
a stalker?
A stalker, basically. Gosh. I'm not dumb. I'm just Afrikaans.
English isn't your first language.
English is not my first language. And also, I'm still nervous. I don't know why, but anyway. Piet Bielefeld couldn't get anything sketchy on Sibille Zanner. She was an open book, exactly who everyone said she was. But he would soon realize that not everyone in Sibille's life could say the same. He turned his attention to the suspects, starting with those closest to Sibille. When Bielefeld asked the previous investigating officer their opinion on the immediate circle, they said that everyone, including Frank, was innocent. He found it odd that the previous investigating officer just, like, marked them all as being innocent, because according to him, like, not enough of an investigation had taken place to rule out anyone.
Yeah.
Like, no one could be ruled as guilty or innocent. So he soon discovered that Sibille had a significant life insurance policy that Zanner took out. And he himself was the beneficiary, and she also had a pension fund that would pay out to him if she died.
I don't understand how. Okay, this was 2000s, right?
Yeah, 2002.
But it's like, how if someone takes a life insurance out on someone else? Is that person not notified?
I'm sure there is, like, you have to agree. I'm sure she knew, but maybe it was his idea. Okay. I read this in an article. I saw that he took it out. I don't know how life insurance works. Yeah. Well, to be honest with you, I don't have life insurance.
When I went to the bank the other day, I was like doing other stuff, and they're like, "Do you want life insurance?" I'm like, well, why not? But my mom's the beneficiary. So I said that to my boyfriend. I'm like, you can't kill me and get this. This is going straight to my mom. And so is the money for my funeral policy. It's like, nothing's going to you. So don't kill me. Right? So if I tell me mom's fault.
Tell me you listen to true crime without telling me you listen to true crime. That's exactly what that is. Yes. Within a few days of working on the case, Bielefeld contacted the life insurance company as well as the pension fund and gave them instruction not to pay out a single cent to Frank.
Good boy. Yes. Claps and snaps for you.
Yes.
Good.
Until the investigation has been completed, yes, at least. Course, you know. Yes. Interestingly, Bielefeld found out that Frank had asked the payroll administrator at Sibille's work about the pension fund payout 2 days after Sibille's murder.
I hate him so much.
So after he found out that he couldn't get any of the money, he tried to take legal action, saying that he needed to withdraw funds because he and his boys were struggling financially.
Okay. You see, when you said earlier about like the business and stuff, and now it's like, oh, he's killing over the insurance money because he's got these 2 families and he extended himself, and I hate him so much.
Yeah, I do. I can't tell. So an interesting point that Nicole from True Crime South Africa brought up is that he was an MD of a company, right? And Sibille worked as a secretary.
I'm sorry, the whole time you've been saying her name, I've been thinking like a civil engineer.
Oh my word.
That would have been so amazing if her job was a civil engineer.
That would be cool. So she was a secretary, not a civil engineer. And like Nicole said, a lot of households do depend on 2 salaries.
Yes.
Being an MD, don't you think you'd have enough money if your secretary wife's salary wasn't there anymore? Like, it's not like it would make that big of an impact. Surely it's, I don't know what secretary, like, less than MDs. Way less than MDs, surely.
I mean, I know executive secretaries get a bit more, but if you're just a standard secretary, it's not that much.
Yeah, no, it's a receptionist, basically. Yeah. It just doesn't make sense. He's an MD of a company. Surely he would have enough money to kind of get him over the fact that his wife has passed, you know, and then he's not getting that supplement income. And he also apparently phoned Piet Bielefeld saying that he was in financial straits and could 450,000 rand from the life policy not be released. 450,000 rand is a lot of money.
That is a lot.
And 2002. I don't know what the inflation has done to it, but I'm sure that's a fuck ton of money. Like,
that's a lot.
What type of financial situation are you in that you need that type of money?
Your kids are not old enough to be going to college yet.
Or even preschool. Like, what?
What are you doing? Yeah.
Nappies are expensive, but not that expensive. Yeah. Frank also started dating 4 months after Sibille's murder, by the way.
Wait, dating who? Not his side?
No.
A new one?
Yeah, a new one. They were married for 20 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Just wow.
He's a piece of...
How are you that cold? To like
4 months.
20 years.
And I'm going to mention it again. Nicole Engelbrecht of True Crime South Africa mentioned that I think he went on a date with a lady twice. I'm not sure. Or he went on 2 dates with 2 separate ladies. Yeah. I don't know. But one of the ladies did say that he was like weirdly unemotional about the death. And when he spoke about her, he basically just said how everyone loved her and she was a kind person or something like that. Something like very, I don't know, I almost felt like it was very generic to say what he said.
It's not 20 years worth of emotion.
No, and I don't, like she also mentioned, I don't think you'll be overly well, 4 months after your wife died, I think you would still be like super emotional about it. Even on a date. Well, why would you date 4 months after your wife has died?
I mean, when my kitten died, it took me months to just recover.
Exactly.
That was just a cat, but like a human you've devoted 20 years of your life to. You know, like you had a baby,
children were
adopted and stuff. Like,
you have kids with this person.
Yeah.
Fuck off.
No. Oof.
So obviously this was weird, but anyway, the infidelity was also a really big red flag to Bielefeld, and he decided to have a chat with Frank. And according to him, Frank, on the night of Sibille's murder, he left work at 7 o'clock, arriving home at around 20 to 8. Mm-hmm. He was there until he got the call, and I did mention that the Waterford estate has key cards. Mm. So Bielefeld immediately put in a request for that information.
This guy just...
Frank came home at 6 minutes to 8, not 20 to 8. And this was confirmed by the domestic worker, who recalled that one of her favourite soapies had just started, so she knew he came home just before 8. Bielefeld decided to reconstruct the events to see if the timelines would match. So from Frank's office to his home, it took 35 minutes. Mm-hmm. They then recreated Sibille's last trip by leaving Waterford Estate at 11 minutes past 7. They drove the speed limit because they thought that she would. They drove to the Stribel's home and they made it there at 7:31. So that seemed like it was a credible timeline. They then sped back to the Waterford Estate, slightly over the speed limit, as they believed someone fleeing from a crime scene would. Mm-hmm. And they arrived at the estate at 7:52. Okay. Bielefeld drove from Frank's place of work to the Stribel's home and then back to the Waterford Estate. Exactly 54 minutes.
Jeez.
And what time did Frank arrive home according to the key card? 7:54.
Jeez.
A neighbour mentioned that after the murder, Frank had come over to him to kind of, quote-unquote, remind him about a conversation they had the night of Sibille's murder, and he tried to, quote-unquote, remind him that he saw him arriving home that night, which was weird because the neighbour said he definitely didn't see him or talk to him.
Oh, okay. You're trying to force an alibi, like...
I don't know. There were other suspects for, fleeting moments, but nothing would prove fruitful. One of them was Eddie Bezuidenhout, Frank's ex-brother-in-law, but he had an alibi and passed the polygraph. Not that polygraphs mean shit. That just... You can pass a polygraph and still be guilty. Yeah. You can just deal with stress and deceit really well.
I imagine for, like, a sociopath, it must be easy to...
Yeah, exactly. However, he did have something interesting to say. A year before Sibille's murder, Eddie had sold a crossbow and 3 darts to Frank.
Oh my god.
But when a photo of the dart found in Sibille's skull was shown to Eddie, he said it wasn't the same dart that he sold to him. But that's still very interesting. You can get
new darts. Exactly. No, it's been like 3 years.
You need to practice, I guess.
Exactly.
A year. It's been 1 year.
It's been a year. You can get new darts.
The crossbow was never found, and Frank denied ever having purchased the crossbow from Eddie. Also, Frank took a polygraph and he failed.
Okay.
Morbid always says, take a polygraph, you're fucked if you fail, but also it doesn't prove your innocence if you pass. So just don't take it. In my opinion, I don't advocate for any murderers, but if I was approached with a polygraph, I'd probably say no thank you.
Yeah. Because just the anxiety alone would probably make it positive.
Exactly.
Well, for people like us anyway.
Yeah, for sure. Susanna was also investigated. A tip actually came through saying she was preparing to leave the country. Bielefeld tracked her down at her office and found her as she was packing up. She burst out into tears. She was fearing for her life and the life of her daughter because Frank had been threatening her to give him her daughter.
What?
He wanted the daughter.
Like, just by himself?
Even offering money in exchange for custody. And she also realised, like, all the fingers were starting to point at Frank and, like, things were looking very sketchy. So she gave all of her details to Bielefeld and said that if she ever needed to testify, she'll come back. She never came back. I don't know if she was called to testify. Don't think so. Frank tried to get her contact details from the landlord, but he said no. And I actually hope he said fuck off.
Yeah.
I really hope he
so.
Told him to fuck off. The Zanner family hired a PI to prove Frank's alibi because now they realize that he's getting into shit. Bielefeld would later say that the PI approached him and told him to check the CCTV camera at the Zanner's factory.
Nice.
The PI then retracted his services from the case.
Ooh.
When Bielefeld went to go and look at the CCTV footage the next day, it was missing and it was never found.
Wow.
So I really want to know what's going on there.
That is a big one. Like, if he retracts after that, then he saw something.
So,
Ooh.
another really, really interesting piece of this case that I did not see coming. It was unveiled that this hadn't been the first time that Frank Zanner was in the middle of a death investigation.
Okay.
On the 12th of March, 1992, Zanner inflicted a fatal head wound on a 50-year-old Samuel Tumesang Sagetso by striking him with a steel measuring instrument known as a vernier or a capilla. It's those, it looks like it has a mouth.
Oh, yeah.
And then I think you measure like thickness of things.
Like a caliper?
Yes, I just said caliper.
Oh, did you?
A vernier or caliper. The incident occurred at a Krugersdorp factory owned by Zanner's father. So Frank had tried to get someone's attention at this factory. He got frustrated because the person wasn't hearing him or wasn't responding. And so he threw this caliper towards this man, because that's what you do to get someone's attention, apparently. And then it hit Samuel, and it struck him in his head. Frank then ran and caught him before he fell down and pulled out the caliper. And this is where I said it comes back. Like, you shouldn't pull out things of wounds, because that's literally what's keeping the blood from pouring out of your body. So in my opinion, by doing that, he's killed him.
Yes.
It could have been accidental, like the throwing of it. They could argue that it was accidental, what. But in doing that, in my opinion, that means he killed him.
Yeah, went from manslaughter to murder in
real
that
fast.
action,
Yes. To make it worse, I then read, and it was also confirmed by Nicole Engelbrecht in True Crime South Africa.
We should have had a drinking game every time you say her name.
Just by all means do that. That when he did that, he hosed him off.
What? Why?
I don't know. Because to me, that feels so gross. That's a blatant disregard of what's just happened.
Yes.
It's almost like you're trying... Do you know what it actually reminds me of? Macbeth trying to wash away the blood on his hands. Yeah. It's almost... How do you not think... I don't know what's going on through your mind by hosing someone down.
It's so disrespectful.
It is disrespectful.
To hose someone down like that.
You hose down your dog after you've washed him.
You hose down your car. You don't hose down a person, especially after you just killed them.
Exactly.
You want to apply pressure and you okay? Let someone call. No, you're going to get a hose.
Rip out the caliper and... Fuck off.
That is messed up.
Yeah, so...
How is he not convicted for that? Sorry.
You'll see.
Okay.
Samuel was a father, husband, and he was at work trying to provide for his family, and he honestly deserved more.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
Frank Zanner can sit on a cactus. Don't sue me. There was also an incident, I could not find any information on this, but I saw it in one article, that there was also an incident in 1997 when an employee was throttled but survived.
Was that also an employee of colour?
I don't know. Yeah.
Because that's also the thing,
Probably. The investigating officers could not get enough evidence against him to charge him for either of these cases.
Oh.
On the 28th August 2003, Frank Zanner was arrested. Although he almost came across arrogant when he was in the interviewing room, he reclined back in his chair, he had his hands behind his head, resting them nonchalant, and he just requested his lawyer.
So Ted Bundy of him.
Yeah. He was in jail for several months, but eventually he'd be granted bail. And in early 2004, Bielefeld had enough evidence to charge Zanner with Samuel's murder.
Okay, good.
Zanner wanted to appeal on the ground that he did not get a speedy trial, which is his right, and that this had been violated. The judge dismissed the appeal, saying that Zanner hadn't been investigated for the murder and that he was not a part of any legal proceedings or anything involving this case during the last 13 years. It was simply that the case was not proceeding at the time it happened, but now it was.
Yeah.
So,
good.
Screw you.
I'm so glad.
The trial against Frank Zanner would begin on the 26th of July 2004. Both Samuel's and Sibille's murder cases would be brought forward and heard by the same judge. It started with Samuel's case, and unfortunately the case did not go well.
Oh no.
The witnesses somewhat fell apart during cross-examination, even though Bielefeld thought he had prepared them well for court and all these things. I think because it was so long ago, 13 years had passed at this point, the investigating officer themselves had difficulty recalling exact things.
Yeah, I imagine they have a lot of cases in that time.
And also, the original docket was lost.
Oh, of course it was.
And all the notes of the investigating officer was in there. Okay. What do you expect? When you lose things, what do you expect to achieve justice-wise when you don't keep a tidy ship, like a tight ship?
Yeah. And you know what irritates me thinking of that is, like, as citizens, you're supposed to keep, like, 5 years worth of your tax records, and that's expected of you, and you need to keep those records. But the police can just lose information. It's fine.
But I don't understand. Like, I feel like if I were as an investigating officer or someone who along the way would touch those papers, I feel like I would be so anal about organization and making sure everything has a place. I feel like I would be an absolute nightmare to work with, but I don't feel like I would ever let anything just disappear.
It's not just pieces of paper at the end of the day. That's
people's lives. Also, some witnesses apparently didn't even show up to court, which is also very frustrating. And Sibille's case didn't really go any better. The witnesses were also suddenly unsure about the details, which led the defense to be able to really cast doubt on what was being said. And then rather than facing an acquittal, which would mean that they can never try Zanner for Sibille's death again, or case again, in August 2004, the charge was withdrawn, and the judge acquitted Frank for Samuel's murder, stating not efficient evidence, which is really sad. Like, he can't be tried for Samuel's murder again, but his family can't get the justice that they so rightly deserve. One good thing, the pension fund still refuses to pay out Frank Zanner, or still did refuse, and chose to deposit it into a trust for the twins when they turned 18. Awesome. Zanner tried to fight this in court, but he was unsuccessful. In 2010, Zanner sued the state and Bielefeld for general damaging, for harm done to his reputation and his rights, and for harming his honor and dignity.
Yes, as a cheater, you have all the honor and dignity. I was
thinking the exact same thing. I think you crossed that bridge the day you decided to stick your willy in another lady.
God, don't say willy.
Like, that's the day you lost all of your dignity, was the day you cheated on your wife.
Yes.
So fuck off with that. Yeah. Like, no. So he sued them for 8.5 million rand. No reports were made after this, so I don't know how that went. I don't know if they settled out of court, or
I hope not.
If he won, I don't know. I hope he didn't win.
I hope he got nothing.
I hope he just paid a whole bunch of lawyers for nothing.
Because also, like, to fight that your children are going to get this money, like, that's messed up. Yeah. You literally chose to have these children, and now the state's going to give them this money, and you're like, no, I want it. Yeah. What the hell?
So he's overseas now with his 20-year-old sons. They're 20. That's how long ago it is. The Stribels live in the same home, and they actually planted like a little memorial garden for Sibille.
Oh, nice.
That's the unsolved case of Sibille Zanner, which is arguably not unsolved.
Yeah, no.
Pete Bielefeld has since passed on. I think he passed away in 2010, maybe just after that. I'm not 100% sure. Yeah, he was a really, really good investigator. Yeah. There are so many cases where he was such a big factor in why it got solved, because he's just really good.
Yeah. Thanks so much.
You're welcome. Do you want more wine?
And you need more beer, don't you? Alright. We're back. We're back. We have wine. Well, and beer. After that story, we need it. Yeah. I was going to cover this story on the first episode, and then I was like, no, I'm not sure about this. So I don't really remember these notes. I'm doing Cape Town Castle, or the Castle of Good Hope. So there's quite a bit of history to it, but I mean, it's part of what makes the ghost story is what it is.
Well, I don't know any of the history, so...
Yeah, I didn't know a lot of this either. Oh, can I?
I'll let you.
Oh, yeah, I don't want that.
No, I wouldn't.
I'll die.
I wouldn't.
I didn't even think about how old the castle is. So a lot of the history that I got is from castleofgoodhope.co.za. And also, even with COVID and stuff, they are open for tours and things.
Cool.
So you can buy tickets and you just like walk around by yourself. It's like 50 rand for an adult. But yeah, check their website and you can book tickets and you can go. And why not? Like, it's an amazing place.
And support local.
And, support our heritage sites.
Yeah. What you were going to say, support our crumbling economy.
Well, that too. That too. The economy is crumbling, but our castle isn't. Okay, so March 25th, 1647, a Dutch Indiaman, De Nieuwe Haarlem, which I first thought was a man. The Dutch Indiaman is a ship.
Oh.
So it was making its way from the East Indies to Holland, and it ran aground in Milnerton. There were no casualties when this ship ran aground. So Leendert Jansen, a junior merchant, was told to stay behind in the Cape. He had about 60 crew members left with him to watch the cargo, and while they were left behind, they started getting settled because now they have to survive, so they grew veggies, they fished, and they traded meats with locals.
Oh.
So when Jansen got back home, he and another officer, Nicolaas Pruit, were told to compile a report on the Cape for their bosses, the Dutch East India Company. The Cape was determined to be a great place to stop, and just fun fact, their report was called the Remonstratie, and they were supported by our good friend Jan van Riebeeck, a member of the fleet that picked them up. So in 1651, 79 men and 8 women went with van Riebeeck to set up a, quote, refreshment station in the Cape.
8 women.
That I literally have a note. Now, I personally would hate to be one of those 8 women.
Yeah, because they have to clean up again, like,
I was thinking, are you going to settle? Because then they're probably going to reproduction. Yeah. I don't know why there was that ratio, but okay. Because also this is the 1600s. Like, what are women to men
allowed to do?
Yeah. You clean, you cook, and you have children, I suppose. But also, then you think the history of white men colonizing, they go for the local women as well.
Of course, and then
so
they also call them slurs and
yeah, of
shit
course.
like that.
The castle that stands today replaced an older fort called the Fort de Gruderver. That was constructed from clay and timber, and that was built by Jan van Riebeeck and his crew. And that was the first military building to be erected in what is now Cape Town. It was built in 1652 and was in use until 1674, when it was superseded by the Castle of Good Hope. It wasn't obviously secure because it's clay and timber, and you know Cape Town weather, it's not going to stand the test of time. Van Riebeeck asked his superiors to give the go-ahead on building an actual strong fort, and they agreed to it, but that was only 4 years after Van Riebeeck completed his tour of duty. So he wasn't to do with building the castle as it is now. That was 4 years after he was done in the military. But he was the one who was like, we need to make this permanent and like a proper thing. The Dutch East India Company is officially called the United East India Company and was a mega corporation founded by a government-directed consolidation of several rival Dutch trading companies in the early 17th century, and that was quoted from Wikipedia. I've heard of the Dutch East India Company, but I didn't know anything about it. So it's believed to be the largest company to have ever existed in recorded history, because it was established March 20th, 1602, and they traded in silks and textiles, etc. In addition, the company traded with Indianized Southeast Asian countries when the Dutch government granted it a 21-year monopoly on the Dutch spice trade, and it's called the VOC in short. I think that's the Dutch name abbreviation. It was in fact an early modern corporate model of vertically integrated global supply chain and a proto-conglomerate diversifying into multiple commercial and industrial activities such as international trade, especially intra-Asian trade, shipbuilding, and both production and trade of East Indian spices, Indonesian coffee, Formosan sugarcane, and South African wine. South African wine has forever been just amazing.
We've just been a wine region.
I didn't know any of that. Yeah.
Like, a lot of the words just kind of blew by me, but it was quite
progressive.
Well, because how much of that Indian spice was stealing. And
True. That was a lot of stuff that I didn't know about it, but that is part of our history as South Africans. We don't know this. We're on 1728 now. There was a governor, Pieter van Noort. He sentenced 7 soldiers to death for deserting, and they were going to be hanged. And one of the soldiers was so angry about this, and he put a curse on this governor and said that this governor needs to be there to come and see the execution. If he's going to make them die, he needs to come and watch it. And he didn't come and watch it. And so he was found dead in his chair with a look of terror on his face.
Oh, I just got goosebumps. My word.
So it said that this obviously, played a part in that. He's apparently been seen around there, that's Governor van Noort. There's some quick history and facts about the castle. It's the oldest existing colonial building in South Africa. The first stone was laid on the 2nd of January, 1666.
Oh my word, why?
It was completed by April 1679, just 13 years and 3 months later. The materials used to build the castle were local and included rock cut from the granite outcrop on Signal Hill, which I didn't know.
That's interesting.
Yeah, and blue slates and shells, which were transported from Robben Island. The castle was built by soldiers, volunteers, slaves, and Khoi undergoing punishment. The building housed everything from a church, a bakery, and living quarters to various workshops, stores, and prison cells, amongst other facilities. So it is an example of a star fort. It's built in a pentagonal shape.
Oh.
It's got 5 bastions named Leerdam, Buren, Katzenelnbogen, Nassau, and Oranje. Basically, it's a pentacle. It's a 5-pointed star, and it was built in 1666.
Wow.
Each of those bastions on the end had its own storerooms, magazines, and it housed its own garrison. So they had things like smithies and bakeries and stuff. Battles against the British were fought at Muizenberg in 1795 and Bloberg in 1806, which is bananas. It's so amazing to me to think Muizenberg and Bloberg, like there were battles there. That's crazy. Like now for fun you go to Bloberg, you go to the beach, you know?
Well, I think of Bloberg when I hear Bloberg is Eden on the Bay.
Yes. Oh yeah, so that would have been the Dutch fighting against the British. So in 1936, the Castle of Good Hope was declared a national monument. It's now a provincial heritage site, and following restorations in the 1980s, it is considered the best preserved example of a Dutch East India Company fort.
Oh.
So prior to being replaced in 2003, the distinctive shape of the pentagonal castle was used on South African Defence Force flags. It formed the basis of some rank insignia of Major and above, and was used on South African Air Force aircraft.
Oh. I didn't know
Yeah,
that.
me neither. So there's a dungeon called the Donkergat, or Dark Hole, and that was used for torture. So now prisoners were changed to the dungeon's walls, but water would come into the room, and so they would be drowned while they were chained against the walls.
Ew.
Yeah. There's no light in there. It's black. That's why it's called the Dark Hole. Lights are known to go on and off in the dungeon for no reason. Remember the last time the Ghost Hunters International, when they did the Nottingham Road Hotel, they also went to the castle in the beginning of that episode. And when they were in this dark hole, they had like weird ringing sounds coming. And the guy who basically took them on their tour heard this in the evidence portion. He's like, he's never heard anything like that. And he's been in there, obviously a lot of times. And they don't know if it's the equipment reverberating against the walls or something, but there was just this ringing, like every time they spoke or asked a question or something. But yeah, so they went through there, but I don't remember them getting a lot of evidence and stuff. The first, quote, documented ghost sighting in the castle was in 1915, and it was of a tall gentleman on the castle battlements. So he was seen that one time in 1915, and then the only time he was seen again was 1947, and apparently he was glowing, and he jumped off one of the castle walls, and then he was seen a lot in that time.
Oh.
So there's also been a lot of footsteps that have been heard on the battlements over the past years, and people hear voices. They hear male, female, whispers, just like all sorts of voices wherever they go. And this is a sad one. A soldier was found hanging from the bell rope in the 1700s. So the bell tower was sealed off after that. And a few people have stated that they've heard the bell ringing at random times since then.
Oh my word.
Which,
that's scary.
So there's a lady in grey, and she is attributed to the remains of a female skeleton found at the old Sally Gates when they excavated the area. And she does what I imagine most creepy lady ghosts do and run through the halls crying hysterically, which is probably terrifying to see at night.
That is.
She was reportedly seen in 1947 when the British royal family were on a tour celebrating Princess Elizabeth's 21st birthday. Which seems
19 what?
47. And many of the royals on that tour saw the ghost, including Princess Margaret. So yeah, the British... No idea.
Is that her sister? I don't know. Probably.
Does she have a sister? I don't know.
I don't know much about them except that Harry and Meghan are stirring things up.
Then the main ghost of the place is Lady Ann Bonnard. She was born the 8th of December 1750 and died on the 6th of May 1825. She was a Scottish travel writer, an artist and socialite. When you're a rich woman in that time, you can do whatever you want. She was the author of the ballad Auld Robin Grey, which... Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah. She lived in the castle for 5 years during the 18th century. She was the colony's, quote, first lady and married a younger man, which is scandalous. She bathed in something called the Dolphin Pool, which I'd not heard of before. Still living it up, she has been known to show up at parties for distinguished guests at the castle, and she's seen in the ballroom. So because she was a socialite and she was always,
she resurrects herself when...
Yeah, when there's a party, she's like, yeah, me and my dolphins, come on.
That sounds like you're talking about her boobs.
What? You want your boobs to dolphins? There is an old guard room where male and female voices are heard, apparently arguing. So during an investigation in the area, they spotted a dark figure. There's voices and figures being seen. And there's also reportedly a black dog ghost that has pounced on visitors before vanishing.
That's cute.
I mean, it's
as
a
long
castle.
as it's a friendly pounce.
Well, I assume it's a castle army. There might have been, attack dogs.
Yeah.
It's a black dog ghost. And black dogs associated...
really good,
Yes. Wow. Well, this was our longest recording ever.
So that.
What? Yeah, that's my...
Oh, wow.
That's the end of my story. So...
That is really interesting, though.
Yeah, it's more history than ghosts, but I mean, we don't know anything about our history, so...
Exactly. I think that was really interesting.
Thanks for sticking with us.
Thanks for listening.
We really appreciate it.
Have a good week.
Yeah, bye!
Love you, bye!